All right, body language. We're going to start talking about what's happening with all of this stuff in the debates. We're going to break down a bunch of the different expressions and macro expressions and things that are happening, and we're going to break it down from baseline. So we're not going to do all of them because we'd be here all day. I'm going to try to show you some that maybe you didn't see or maybe that I find interesting. The very first one we're going to do is just, it's interesting, it's the very beginning. And then we're going to watch 2 minutes-ish of the debates to get baseline. And what your goal is to look for creases in the eyes, creases in the forehead, vertical lines, horizontal lines, face angles, and shoulder angles, wherever they are. We'll stop it and point it out. Your goal is to see that in the 2 minutes and see how it kind of goes back and forth. And then from there, we're looking for what deviates from baseline. If you have baseline, you can be predictive of how they're going to behave. But your job is to see baseline and then pick up the nuancey stuff that changes from baseline. You'll notice that Biden's always holding a pen. Not always, but he starts to hold a pen because he starts doing things with his hands that he probably shouldn't be doing. So it keeps him involved in that. My goal is not to influence a group of people to think one way or the other around a specific candidate or belief system. I don't care what your leaning is. I don't care who you're going to vote for. But what I would like you to do is have some tools to start to check authenticity, check congruency, check to see if where people are from their baseline. And this is a really easy way to begin to see that. So let's go ahead and play. Okay, so the first part we're going to talk about is the fact that he says, "How you doing, man?" It's not really how you would greet any sitting president, whether you like the guy or not, especially being a senator and expecting the same sort of respect that you would give. You're really looking at what that means. So what you see is when we first get into it, he says, "How you doing, man?" You're going to see that he looks really smug, like he scored a point. So let's go ahead and zoom in on that. So let's look at this. All right, so we're looking at that smug look that he's got going on right about here. Like, yeah, I scored one. Now, at the same time, we're going to look at what happens to Trump when he says, "How you doing, man?" Okay, so we're looking is this left side contraction of his face right there. We'll do it in slow motion. Look at it in speed. Right there. And look at that. That contraction... Let's go back. Right there. Can you see that? That's a unilateral contraction. That unilateral contraction is contempt. So anytime you have a unilateral contraction, it's going to have to do with contempt. Like, yeah. Okay. It appears to be laughy, smiley, but it usually has to do with contempt. So take a look at that, see what happens, play with that concept. All right, we're going to go ahead and keep going. And we're just going to watch for about 2 minutes to see what happens, and then you'll see the next one that pauses. I'll stop it in the middle just so you can see, so we'll be able to show you from baseline.
President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation.
So what we're looking for shoulder height. Okay, his right shoulder's high. His left shoulder is neutral. You're looking for some symmetry in the face. Is it symmetrical right to left? Creases, bags under the eyes. We're looking for any of those shifting. Same thing here. Right shoulder is low. Left shoulder is high. I want you to notice right now these vertical lines and these horizontal lines. Okay, so those are all going to be very, very important when we play with this. So things to think about from where we start. Right shoulder high, micromanager. Left shoulder is neutral on the president. Senator Biden, where you're going to see his right shoulder, is low. That usually means they can't say no. It's going to be really important as you watch this and watch how he gets flustered through this thing, because Trump's a bully. We know that. But Biden is going to easily get pushed around on that kind of bullying. You're also going to see that the left shoulder starts to roll forward on Biden later. And you're going to see some weird shoulder action from the president also. So let's take a look at this and play. All right. You check out baseline, watch this shifting back and forth.
Senate to consider a nominee to the court.
That
Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans.
That shifting back and forth, that back and forth shifting is I'm thinking and I'm feeling and I'm thinking and I'm feeling. Pay attention to that.
Both of you tonight. Why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time.
Okay, so this is where we're going to start getting into it. When someone's saying something, you're looking for congruency from head, left to right, and up and down. So top academic, best, so you're looking for congruency. Usually when someone's head starts shaking no, as they're giving accolades, it's just something that they're thinking. They haven't really discussed anything with anybody. Does that mean he's lying? No. Does it mean it's somebody just talking somebody up? Could be. So we're looking for congruency changes not only in head shakes but in smiles, in hands. We're looking for all of that. So pay attention. Coming up. Here we go.
Even if we did it after the election itself, I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school.
Right here.
And
what is that?
We won the...
Okay, when the chin comes forward, it tends to mean present time anger. Okay, and coughing tends to be present time anger.
I'm at a great school, and we won the election, and therefore...
So the chin coming forward, present time anger. Coughing can be present time anger. He also might just be a little nervous, and you can get a nervous tickle, right? But it usually has to do with, if it's not anger, then it's aggression or being upset, not being able to say what you want the way you want to say it. Flip side of that is, what's in his sleeve? I really want to know what's in his sleeve. Tell me what that is. That makes me curious. But anyway, let's keep going.
Election, and therefore we have the right to choose her, and very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they're trying to do it faster. There's no way.
Here's a smile.
They had Merrick Garland, but
now watch how fast a politician is it changing when they get caught. So he has a smile, authentic. Now here comes anger. Look at that. If somebody looked at me like that, it'd look like a fight, wouldn't it? And now he covers it up. He does a good job covering it up.
There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely it would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we...
Now what is this? So there's some incongruencies that are happening with what's being said by the president versus what former Vice President Biden's face is doing. So that look of confusion with that one eye squinty and the one eye opening and the head tilting, the auditory nerve on the right side is shorter than the left. And when most people are listening and they're actively listening, they bring their right ear forward. Okay, so because it's shorter, it hits the brain sooner. So when people are really trying to hear, they'll put their right ear forward and they'll have a slight head tilt because it's going to open it up. It's kind of like a unidirectional microphone, right? It's really trying to pick that up like a cone, right? That's how you're thinking about it. So it's doing that. But if you look at what just happened, this being his right ear and he's bringing it closer to his right shoulder, that usually doesn't happen unless you're blocking off what you're hearing. Either he doesn't like what the president is saying, or he's internally in his, there's always the conspiracy that he's got an earpiece in. He's got the weird wire on his wrist, but that's whatever. I'm not trying to get into that. What I'm talking about is if you have an internal monologue that's not something you want to hear, and you cover your shoulder with your right ear and stick your left forward, that usually tends to be a startle flinch reflex, right? He's also got the eyeball squinty eyeball. So whatever's coming into his information he's not wanting to process it that way. So keep all that in mind. All right, it's not congruent with what's being said.
So we won the election and we have the right to do it, Chris.
So what I would like you to see on this one is swelling that's starting to happen here. Okay, so that swelling there happens with self-criticism.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. Look forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, so the reason I did this is because I wanted you to see the tension in the jaw on the left side that's happening. This is going to be really important later. Watch this left jaw. He tightens it a little bit harder to see in slow motion as at speed, but he pushes the left jaw forward, and that tends to be making life more difficult than it needs to be.
Look forward to this, Mr. President.
And present time anger.
The American people have a right to have a say.
That means that he clenches his teeth a lot, and it probably means that he has broken molars.
For United States senators, and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because
I want you to listen to how tens of thousands Biden does a politician's pivot here. It pisses Trump off.
We should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he has been governing on that.
Right here.
He's in the Supreme Court right now.
So you see that? You see how all of a sudden the Biden, politician for 47 years, understands how to do a pivot. Contempt. Okay. Clears it very quickly, just like Biden did.
And he has been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having
now we're
insurance.
starting to see some new lines coming to his face into Biden's.
And I have nothing. I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person, but she's written
right here.
before she went in the
Pay attention to that.
her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be held pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man did. Yes. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people that now, if it goes into court, and the justice, and I have nothing. I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person, but she's written before.
Okay, now what I want you to pay attention to is the eyes. Okay, you're going to hear a lot of information about eyes and eye movement, but I just want you to see it. So we're going to start looking, make sure in this next part, you're going to look at his eyes are going to go up to the left. Okay, I want you to pay attention to that. A lot of people are going to tell you all kinds of crap about that. Really, it's just him trying to disengage so he can think about what he's thinking, but take a look.
Went in the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's
right
struck
there.
down, what happens? Women's rights are.
So there's a lot of ideas about if your eyes go up to the left and up to the right. It's not really accurate. There's a lot of reasons why it's not super accurate, but don't get twisted on it. Okay, what it tends to mean is when someone is thinking and they're trying to gather their information, it's very hard to look at someone, especially as a male. We don't have as much connective tissue left to right. We have more. Our information travels faster front to back than it does left to right. It's just how it is. Women are faster at task stacking and multi-switching than men are, but men are faster at focused ideas. When a man is engaging, if he has to recall or verify in his head information, his eyes are going to shoot up. They're going to leave the subject that he's talking to and they're going to go somewhere else. So if you're forcing your kids to look at you when they talk to you, they're not going to be able to have a clean story. Let people look away while they're telling you the story. It means that they're not only crafting their story, but it's usually more authentic. People that stare at you when they're saying something and they hold gaze, it usually means that they're being deceptive. So let them look away. There's a balance to it, and you're going to see in a lot of these body language books, you need to have this much time looking at somebody. Don't sweat it. Let people look away. It doesn't mean what all these eye things happen. That's 25 studies showed out of, or 23 studies out of 25 showed that it doesn't really work like that. So get that myth right out of your system. When Vice President Biden's doing that, he's trying to make sure that his information is correct. He's verifying his own information. So keep that in mind.
Fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be held pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the
Are the
same
shoulder heights the
thing
same? Are they changing?
Yes. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions. And they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to...
Another one of contempt.
And so it's just not appropriate.
If you saw the left side.
For this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February. All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say.
Now, what I want you to start looking for is when older people get confused, of any, when they start getting up an age, it tends to look like anger. And it's because they know that they know it, but they can't get it out from their brain to their mouth. You'll see that with anyone that is trying to say something and they just can't formulate it. They start to look a little grumpy. It's not that they're grumpy. It's usually a state of confusion. So they look very similar. Watch for that. You're going to see the lines increase. Vertical lines, straight, tend to be rage. Okay? When they're hooked, they're usually present time anger. If you look, Vice President Biden's keeps coming in and out. Take that for what you want.
10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected.
Here
for
comes
4 years.
confusion.
And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish.
So this is the first time that President Trump has started to use his left hand. Now there's a podium in the way, and I think that they put the podiums that high on purpose, and that's why they're always gripping them, because it keeps their hands from giving away or being like a poker tail. It's really hard to get it out to the side. You'll see it sometimes when their hands come wide, you'll see them drop, but it's really hard to get the hand low left. This right here, I would consider, if the podium wasn't there, the hand would drop lower to the left, which would be a distraction. Distraction is right up President Trump's game. Good on any politician. That's what they do with their pivots, and they're doing that kind of stuff. They're trying to create a distraction from the point. That's kind of the game, right? In all debates, is to get somebody off track. So watch towards the end of this video what causing this distraction with the left hand does. So it's one of two things. It's either going to be a distraction or dismissal. Because Biden is on his left. He's dismissing him. And you're going to see Biden do that to Trump a few times. So they're going to be mirroring each other's right hand, but you're going to start to see this kind of shape happen when Biden starts getting pissed off at Trump. Okay, so you're going to see that, where it's going to be dismissal. So either Trump is creating a physical barrier space, a fence. He's either saying, psh, talk to the hand like we did as kids, or he's creating distraction. Either way, it's going to change the dynamic of the conversation. All right, it's the first time he's used his left hand.
180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly
knows
going
that.
to socialists.
Go
We're
ahead.
going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination.
Now watch the right hand that Biden is using, bringing it into his chest as he drops his right shoulder.
They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say. Your party wants to
Now
go
here he's getting
socialist
dismissive.
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
And
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic
You get
Party.
now. Look at the
platform of the
Not according
Democratic.
to
look at the increase in the depth of these. Remember I talked about this present time anger. That's different from baseline, and then you have the horizontal line here. Those are different than what baseline happened. His right shoulder was lower a minute ago when he was trying to push Trump out of the way. We're going to go ahead and rewind that a little bit so you can see that series again. What I want you to see is Trump starts. Okay. Biden's trying to talk. He gets more and more frustrated, so he puts his hand out and starts pushing him away. So his right shoulder drops. He's starting to bring his hand into his chest, asking for help, almost demanding help. Now, when you're doing this, you're asking for help. This is a pleading motion. This is, will you help me? And you've seen me talk about that before, about that's how George Bush won one of the elections. I need your help, right? So when he's doing that, then he picks up his pen because he knows that he's giving that away.
That is simply a lie.
Okay, he pushed him away. You can even see that the pen turned before it went out of frame. So you know that he's pushing his hand towards him.
and said your party wants to go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist.
Now, the anger lines got picked up, right? So now the anger lines are deeper, but also the anger lines in Trump's face has kind of dissipated. So if we look here, where the anger lines were versus here, okay, this is much, much different than this.
Right now, I am
And
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact,
Now, if you look, Trump's are back. The anger lines are now back in Trump's face.
approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that
Okay, that was a micro. We'll go back. I want you to see this. I'm not going to stop it in slow motion. It's going to be right after this. I want you to look at Trump's face. I want you to look right here. He's going to have another contempt moment. Okay, this one's a little bit faster. So this is just so you get better at reading it.
in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that
Right there.
it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those?
So what's going to happen now is you're going to see Trump butt in and really fluster Biden. You're going to watch this kind of. I want you to see what the flustering looks like. I want you to watch what's going to happen to Biden's mouth. And I think I slow it down for you. But pay attention. It's really easy for him to fluster him.
Have survived. Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act?
Joe, you've had 308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about.
And if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't be
the deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would've
Right there.
been
What is that?
Joe.
Mr. President,
Watch this. Do you see his mouth? He's trying to say by the way, but he's missed the whole thing.
Which was
So you see a lot of. That's not a normal. He can't get the word out of his mouth because he's now at a flustered position. So these are things that we have to start looking for across the board. Right now, if you haven't taken the course, it doesn't really matter what it all means. You're just looking to see for congruency. So some of those you could see in slow motion. Some of them you could tell right in slow motion what was happening. We got 45 seconds left, and then we'll close this up.
Is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court.
We're again looking for
And so that's also
him being in.
And so the election is all.
You don't know it's on the ballot.
I-
Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it
you
on the
said
ballot? It's not on the ballot.
it's on the ballot in the
I don't
court.
think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just
don't
be quiet
know
for a
her
minute?
view on Roe v. Wade.
I
You
don't
know
know.
her view.
Well, all right. Let's talk.
We're going to watch that very last piece again, that last 15 seconds. And what I want you to notice is the left eye on Vice President Biden. Pay attention to it. This is where the flustering comes in. Right side is doing, left side is receiving. He's not getting what he wants, and he's trying to project and trying to do. And so if you see two people in a fight bucking up, it's always right to right. It's like, because your right side is doing. He's trying to block off any of the receiving stuff so he can think. You take in information faster on the left side, minus the auditory nerve on the right side. That's one of the few times that doesn't happen. The listening is actually a doing. You're taking in information, but you're making it an active thing. This would be a passive listening. So if you see somebody that's trying to mellow out, they're going to be listening here. If you hear somebody that's actively trying to listen to you, it's going to be here. That's the only differential that happens on with body language. Otherwise, you receive information in your left and you do information. So when you watch his eyes start to do this, he's trying to block out the receiving and do more doing. He's trying to move into that space. So watch it one more time.
Finished.
So pay attention to right here.
The president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now.
Nice open
So
eyes.
the election is all
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Right
Why
there.
is it on the ballot? It's not on the ballot.
Left eye is getting squinty.
I don't think
Staying squinty.
There's nothing happening.
Now more squinty than the right.
Donald, would
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a
her view on Roe v. Wade.
I
You
don't
know
know.
her view.
Well, all right. Let's talk.
Okay, look at that shape of confusion. Okay, now we're going to finish here, but what I want you to do is I want you to go back and check it on baseline from the very beginning. Are the eyes the same? Are the creases the same? Are the shoulders the same height? Okay? You're looking at all those things. When you're reading body language, it's very important to know what that all means, but before that you have to learn how to see it. And that's what this is. It's really about learning how to see. We covered a little bit of that. We covered the jaw coming forward, which is making life more difficult than it needs to be. We covered right shoulder being a micromanager. Right shoulder too low, can't say no. So we covered kind of the basics of what was going on, and we covered the fact that what the hands were doing. We can get into a lot of what all that means, but why, really, if you're not going to be able to do it all the time? It's more important that you learn how to see. All of those things don't really mean crap if you don't put it into context. Don't take them as one-offs. Look at the whole thing, and you're also looking at, is it congruent with their speech? If what they're saying is congruent, everything will look balanced. But when you look at that smile that Biden had when towards the beginning, when he smiled, and then got really angry and bit his lips, it's not a congruent system. That's a disarming and then, oh, I'm angry, right? And then having to reset. So I really want you to pay attention to this next time you walk through watching the debate. I would almost say just watch the debate as it is. Don't worry about it. And then go back and pick the things that you thought were most interesting, and then watch them back on YouTube in slow motion. You can go into the settings on YouTube and watch them in slow-mo. Watch them in slow-mo, because you're going to get a lot of information. YouTube and videos have made it so much easier to learn body language, to see the cues, learn what the cues are, more than trying to learn what they mean. You already know what they mean, right? We've been doing it longer than our primary language, so don't stress it. Pay attention to it. Learn how to see it. Don't get distracted from the speech. Don't get distracted from the words. Make sure there's congruency with the body language. Later on, when we talk about rapport, or if you come to a live class, you get to see it happen in real time. You get to see what all of it means. You have a map of the whole body, and so you can really start to apply this stuff. But right now, learn to see it. Pay attention to it. Use it. Okay? I hope this was informative. I hope it was enjoyable. I hope it gives you an idea of what you should be looking for versus what a lot of these other things are saying. I would like to know what was in his wrist. So if anybody has any idea what that was in his sleeve, please let me know. All right, you guys have fun. Thank you for your time. I'll talk to you later.